Sharon timidly shifted from one foot to the other, nervously fingering the folder with documents she was holding in her hands. She was extremely anxious because she was about to have a job interview with the company director. There was an open position for a cleaner, and she desperately needed this job, or any other official job for that matter. It might seem like getting a job as a cleaner should be easy, but Sharon's case was different. She recalled her conversation with her neighbour Nina, who'd come across the vacancy by sheer chance. Nina saw how hard Sharon was trying to rebuild her life and genuinely wanted to help. "Thank you for your support, Nina, but I don't think they will hire me with my early parole certificate. Everywhere I go they give me the boot. Nobody wants to hire an ex-convict, not even as a cleaner." Sharon said sorrowfully, "Just give it a try, ask and you shall receive. Do you want to get your daughter back? Least you can do is go and ask," Nina insisted. At the mention of her daughter, tears welled up in Sharon's eyes. "Yes, of course I'll go, and no matter what, I will get this job because this is my last chance," she replied. Her thoughts were interrupted by the stern voice of the secretary. "Come in. Connor wants to see you." Sharon quickly shuffled towards the door. Entering the spacious office, she saw a smug young man sprawled in his chair. It was clear that he was proud of his position and keen to show off his importance. If only Sharon knew how things really were. The company had been inherited by Connor from his father. He had taken on the family business with pleasure. Initially, it had been tough, though. Lack of experience, debts, and more than a few unprofitable projects. But gradually the company stabilised. Now he had an office in the city centre and his company was generating steady revenue. Well aware of his successful position, Connor felt on top of the world. However, despite all his success and affluence, he hated spending money on others. He was well aware that most of his business success was due to having the right staff. This meant paying specialists well, and he did so reluctantly. But he skimped on the support staff, paying them meagre salaries. "A penny saved is a penny earned" was a phrase he remembered well from his childhood. Even if it just meant saving a couple of bucks for his wife's lipstick, it was still worth it. Hence, cleaners were at the bottom of the food chain in Connor's universe. None of them could survive for more than a few weeks here. There was a lot of work, but the pay was terrible. "Oh, another one has come," Connor thought, looking at the woman whose appearance spoke for itself. "Hello, Connor. There is an open cleaner position at your company. I really need this job. Please allow me to work here." Sharon went straight to the point. "Come in, have a seat. What's the use of standing by the door? What's your name?" asked Connor. Sharon Smith." "Do you have your documents with you? Let's see them. You can mop floors and dust furniture, I hope. What else is needed?" "Well, that's pretty much it. I just need everything to be clean." The director continued, not looking at Sharon and flipping through the papers she gave him. Yes, of course I can. Sharon couldn't finish her sentence. She saw the stunned look on the man's face. "What the hell is this?" Connor angrily shook her early parole certificate in front of her face. "Please hear me out on this, okay? I ended up there by accident. I was framed. But what does that have to do with the job? I will do my duties excellently. You'll see," Sharon responded. Inside, she was trembling. Her heart was pound. She understood that this was her last hope slipping away. But no, she wasn't going down without a fight. "Are you out of your mind? You had the nerve to come here with this. You'll disgrace my company. Rumours will spread that we hired an ex-con." Connor raised his voice at her. "Please don't turn me down. I beg you. I really need this job. It's a matter of life and death," Sharon pleaded. Oh, this woman is putting on quite a show begging like that. Where did she learn this trick? In jail, of course. Where else, Connor thought to himself. He didn't know what came over him, but he was in a fairly good mood today, having closed an excellent deal the day before. In addition, a seaside vacation was approaching. What the hell, he thought. I'll hire this ex-con. She won't last more than a couple of months anyway, just like the beggars that came before her. All right, cut the comedy. I'll hire you, but I'm warning you, if you do a poor job or, God forbid, steal so much as a paperclip, I'll personally see to it that you end up back in the pen. Is that clear? Now please go to the HR, he said, as if doing her a great favour. But Sharon was so overwhelmed with emotion that the director's arrogant words didn't affect her at all. She happily rushed to the HR department. Unfortunately, her joy was short-lived. It wasn't that she did a poor job. No, she did her work excellently. The office began to sparkle, and it even seemed brighter and bigger, which was something impossible to overlook. But the employees were giving Sharon a hard time. They were all irritated by the fact that she was an ex-convict. They looked at her with disgust and contempt and frequently made caustic remarks just loud enough for her to hear. How could the director hire an ex-convict in such a prestigious company? What if she steals something one of these days? And what kind of outfit is that? Is it like a prison uniform or something? Every day Sharon was faced with mockery, taunts, and outright bullying. She endured it all and remained silent. She knew she could not be provoked, as Sharon particularly irritated Dave, the deputy director. He considered himself to be the top brass around the place. It must be acknowledged that he had indeed helped elevate the company to a high level back in the day. Dave was intelligent, energetic, and full of ideas. But his ambition, greed, and overwhelming ego got the better of him as time went by. He couldn't stand competition, loved receiving all kinds of attention, and was a real control freak. Most importantly, he dreamed of taking the general director's chair. I deserve this position. Me, not that dumb blockhead who inherited the company from his daddy. I do everything for this company, and he just rakes in the money. Dave constantly racked his brain on how to achieve his goal. Start his own company? No, that wasn't a consideration. He earned well here, but starting a company from scratch would require tons of money. The only viable option was to undermine the director. This was exactly what Dave intended to do when the right moment came. For now, he played the obedient servant to Connor, at the time affecting fatherly care for the team. Connor, why did you hire that Sharon? The employees are worried. Once a thief, always a thief. Can't you understand that? I did some digging, and she was in prison for financial fraud. And she worked in a company similar to ours. How could you hire her? At least you could have asked what she was in for. Dave kept nagging. Dave, why are you so fixated on her? Look at how clean the office has become. No cleaning lady before her has done such a good job. For such a small salary, she cleans as if it's a royal palace. And she did mention she was framed. Maybe she indeed was. Connor replied. Dave's persistent advice was starting to wear on him. That's the thing. Maybe her presence here spells disaster. Dave continued to pressure the director. Dave, please, give me a break. Let's celebrate yesterday's deal instead. We've got every reason in the world to be happy. We have huge contracts coming up with foreign partners. We're moving to a whole new level, buddy. Soon, we'll be living like kings. And you keep whining about some cleaning lady. Think big. Forget about her. But Dave couldn't let it go. His intuition told him to get rid of this suspicious woman. I'll make her leave of her own free will, he decided. He used all his efforts to create unbearable conditions for Sharon at the company. How did you land a job in our office? You're a disgrace to us. You don't belong in a decent society. Don't you dare touch my desk and things with your filthy fingers, Dave persisted. He kept coming up with more and more childish insults for Sharon, but he didn't realize it was futile. After being betrayed by those close to her and spending time in prison, Sharon's heart had hardened and seemed to turn into armor. This armor was impenetrable, especially for someone like Dave. I am a soldier, simply doing my job, Sharon kept saying to herself. There was only one thing left in the world she cared about. How is my little Beverly? She probably doesn't even remember me. 5 years have passed. Why did all this happen to me? How could I have been so gullible? Sharon thought, feeling tears welling up in her eyes. Thus, A month passed. Another workday began, but it was unusual. From the early morning, the office buzzed like a beehive. All the employees rushed around like crazy, preparing for the arrival of a foreign delegation. The day before, Connor had instructed Sharon to scrub all the offices to a shine. "Hey, cleaning lady, what's your name? Start with my office. I need to step out." Dave barked at her and left. Sharon loved tidying up the offices, arranging folders neatly on the shelves. How familiar this felt. And when she saw the documents neatly stacked on desks, she felt an urge to sit at the computer and dive into the magic world of numbers, tables, and calculations. In a similar office, she had once prepared hundreds of contracts and crunched reports like peanuts. But that was in a past life, and now she is just a nobody, a cleaning lady. She was already finishing Dave's office as her eyes fell on a grey folder sticking out from a neat pile of documents on the desk. A sheet of paper was carelessly shoved into it. Sharon knew she was not supposed to touch it, but she couldn't resist the temptation. It was a complex financial calculation, filled with numbers. Glancing through the document, Sharon felt something was off. But she didn't rely on her intuition alone. Grabbing a calculator, she confirmed that the document was a clear fraud. Her anxiety increased when she noticed today's date on the back of the document. Today was a crucial day for the company. They were about to sign a major deal. Sharon immediately recalled how she had been framed in a similar way. She had to inform Connor immediately. She had no doubt it was a fraud. Never, under any circumstances, would Sharon wish the same fate on anyone that had befallen her. She put the folder back in place and, cautiously glancing around, headed towards the director's reception area. Connor was busy all day. Getting an appointment with him today was nearly impossible. The secretary tried to chase Sharon away. "Is this the time to wave your rag around? Get out of here!" "I am not here to clean. I need to see Connor. Urgently," Sharon insisted. "Gosh, how sick I am of you all folks. Connor expressly instructed me not to let in anyone today, much less you, only if he summons them himself," the secretary stubbornly repeated. Sharon didn't hear her words anymore, and as if possessed, rushed to the office door. Her hand touched the handle. The secretary jumped up and tried to block her way. Suddenly the door flew open, pushed from the other side, and Connor stormed out, his eyes blazing with anger. "Why are you two raising such a racket here? Stop it immediately. Today is a business meeting with foreign partners. What are you doing? Emma? I told you not to let anyone in. If you ruin this meeting, I'll fire you." Connor couldn't contain his emotions. "Connor!" Emma stammered in shock. "It's all her. She's trying to get into your office." The director turned his anger on Sharon. "And what are you doing here? I don't want to see you, especially today. Get your shit quick and get out of here." "No, I'm not getting out. Connor, I need to talk to you. Can we go into your office?" Sharon said, ignoring the director's anger. Connor's face turned crimson. For a split second, Sharon even thought that the director was ready to use force on her. But she wasn't easily scared anymore, and not a single muscle on her face twitched. Life in prison had toughened her so much that she wasn't easily intimidated by a raised voice. Silently, Sharon bypassed the director and entered his office. He had no choice but to follow. He couldn't start throwing punches at his cleaning lady after all. "You have 1 minute. What is it this time? Another life or death matter?" the director grumbled. "Oh yes, Connor, it is indeed a matter of life and death. Please listen to me. This concerns the new deal you are about to sign. Your deputy, Dave, is setting you up. He deliberately altered the company's financial figures to tarnish your reputation with the partners. All this to get rid of you and take your place. I have proof. Here." Sharon handed the folder with the documents to the director. Connor turned red as a beet and slammed the folder on the desk. "How dare you slander respectable people? Dave is a talented, smart leader. He is practically the brain of our company and a true friend of mine. And who are you? A former convict and a thief. Did you decide to revert to your criminal ways?" Dave was right. He was right 1,000 times when he said you shouldn't be hired. What an idiot I was not to listen to him. But now I will correct my mistake. Write your resignation letter. Now. Sharon was completely unprepared for such a reaction. She thought the director would at least be interested in her words, and if he didn't believe her immediately, and she did not expect him to, he would at least ask for an investigation into the documents. But he was so blinded by the company's success and believed so strongly in the impeccable honesty of his employees that he refused to accept anything that could shatter his worldview. "Are you still here? If you don't leave this office within 3 seconds, I am calling the security." Sharon obediently walked to the door. At the threshold, she turned and said, "Connor, give me 24 hours and I will prove to you that I am right. What do you know about business? Especially about financial matters. You're just a cleaning lady. Your place is with the mop and bucket." The director was obviously still in denial. Sharon didn't give up. "Just trust me. I am absolutely sure of what I'm saying. I haven't spent my whole life in prison and I haven't always worked as a cleaning lady." The director's expression changed and his voice softened a bit. After a moment's pause, he said, "Well, let's say I agree to your ridiculous proposal. If it turns out to be slander, I won't just fire you, and you won't get away with just writing a resignation letter. I will fire you with cause. This will be recorded in your labour record. And then no one will hire you, not even as a cleaning lady. You'll be begging at the church gate. Do I make myself clear?" "Yes, of course. I need the company's financial statements for the past few years, and especially the financial documents for the upcoming deal," Sharon replied calmly. "Suppose I provide you with all that. What am I supposed to tell my foreign partners? They're coming tonight." Connor snarled. "Well, think of something. They won't be in town for just one day, right? My best bet would be to arrange a warm reception, discuss future cooperation, hint that serious deals aren't concluded that quickly, and that you still need to double-check the final details. Everything will be done, but tomorrow." "Something like that," Sharon suggested. Connor just nodded in response and watched Sharon closely as she left the office. Amazing that someone with her intelligence and honesty ended up in prison. "I still can't believe it," he thought, hoping deep down inside that everything the cleaning lady had said was not true and she was just imagining things. Sharon first sneaked into Dave's office and slipped the folder back in its place. Luckily for her, Dave hadn't returned yet. And when he did appear, he, of course, didn't notice the difference. He also suspected nothing when Connor said that the contract signing was postponed to the next day. Dave was convinced that his plan to sink the director would work perfectly, day earlier or day later. For the rest of the day, Sharon obediently carried out her cleaning duties. When all the employees had gone home, she entered the accounting office and spent almost the entire night there. The security had been aware. Accounting entries, calculations, contracts, all blurred before her eyes in an endless stream of numbers. Finally, her efforts paid off. Her concerns about the upcoming deal were confirmed, but that wasn't everything. Sharon managed to uncover Dave's criminal schemes. Not only was he trying to frame the director, but he was also stealing company funds. Strange that no one had noticed this before. Or perhaps they simply chose not to notice. In the morning, exhausted, with pouches under her eyes but satisfied with herself, Sharon showed up at the director's reception area. "I need to see Connor," she said curtly. "Christ, not again. Wasn't yesterday enough for you? Do you want to cause another scandal?" the secretary exclaimed. "Call the director. Tell him Sharon Smith is here." "Yes, Emma. What's happening?" asked Connor, enjoying his morning cup of coffee. The first meeting with the new partners had gone well, better than he had expected. The lucrative contract was practically in the bag. "Sharon Smith is here to see you again. Should I let her in?" the secretary asked. "Yes, let her in," Connor replied calmly. A bewildered Emma almost dropped the phone and watched in surprise as Sharon entered the office. "You're early. The 24 hours aren't over yet," Connor smirked. He wasn't as angry as the day before, but his demeanour clearly showed he wasn't thrilled about Sharon's visit either. However, as soon as she placed the documents on the table, Connor's heart sank. He saw everything with his own eyes. His mind refused to believe that his trusted colleagues could be conducting criminal schemes behind his back. Connor was completely unprepared for this. "Connor, I went through all the documents. My conclusions were confirmed. Now I'll explain everything to you," Sharon said decisively. Connor's legs felt weak, and he struggled to breathe. His face alternated between red and pale as Sharon used the copies she had made to prove the bitter truth to him. "I'm finished. Connor, are you okay?" she asked, seeing him clutching his head with his eyes fixed on one point. "I'm fine. Everything you said sounds very convincing, but I will verify all of this anyway. Leave the documents here and go back to your duties," Connor said. "Yes, of course, Connor." Sharon hurried to the exit. In the corridor, she bumped into Dave, who gave her a disdainful look. "Good morning, Dave." The secretary beamed at him. "Is the big man in?" Dave smirked in response. "Yes, he is. Please, go right in." How Connor wished he could just grab the bastard by the collar and beat the living shit out of him. He had always trusted him in everything. But Connor managed to compose himself. It was too early to draw conclusions based solely on Sharon's calculations, however convincing. After all, he and Dave went back a long way, and he knew this cleaning lady just for a few weeks. Connor found the strength to smile and shake Dave's hand. Then, as if nothing had happened, he began discussing business with him. Sharon barely made it through the rest of the day. The sleepless night had taken its toll. In the evening, she dragged herself home, her legs aching. She collapsed onto the couch and immediately fell asleep. It was a happy dream. She was with her daughter Beverly, from whom she had been cruelly separated for many years. The next morning, Sharon couldn't believe her eyes when she arrived to clean Dave's office as usual. Dave was a terrible pedant. He loved order. God forbid if he saw any dust, it would drive him into a rage. And suddenly, instead of a tidy office, Sharon found a complete mess. Torn documents and scattered folders were everywhere. Oh my God. There was a pile of cigarette butts on the table. Dave never, ever allowed himself to smoke at the workplace. A second later, Sharon was startled by Dave's screams coming from behind the door, resembling the roar of an enraged lion. The woman rushed out of the office, trying to avoid being seen by Dave. She realized that something extraordinary had happened in Dave's life and had a pretty good idea of what it might be. But Sharon didn't gloat over her victory. No. She was not the type to say maliciously, "Well, look who got caught. Time to face the consequences." She simply sought justice, just as she had the year when her daughter was taken away from her. Her thoughts were interrupted by the shout of one of the office workers. "Hey you, cleaner! The director is calling you. Someone is getting FIRED. All the employees started whispering one to another. No one could even guess why the director was summoning Sharon. "Hello, Sharon. Please, come in," Connor said politely. Sharon was stunned. The director rarely, if ever, addressed her by her first name. In fact, no one at the office called her by her name, only Hey, or at best, in cleaner. Connor's subsequent words shocked her. She didn't immediately believe her ears. "I am very grateful to you for those documents and for analysing them. If it weren't for you, I would have lost the company, been in debt, and perhaps even had legal troubles. I didn't expect this from my deputy." Thank you so much." Now it was Sharon's turn to blush and pale. Although she hadn't done anything extraordinary, she had merely removed Connor's rose-coloured glasses and revealed the truth. "Don't worry, Sharon. I should be the one apologising for my occasionally impolite behaviour towards you," Connor reassured her. No, don't apologise. You did so much for me by hiring me." "After all, ex-convicts don't even get cleaning jobs," Sharon replied with a hint of a smile. "And how did you ever end up in prison?" "I should have inquired about this earlier, and perhaps my attitude toward you would have changed immediately," the director asked, unable to contain his curiosity. "It's a long story." Sharon hadn't expected such a question. "But do tell. You don't look like a criminal," Connor persisted. Sharon paused for a moment. The memories caused her deep pain, but she found the strength to continue. "Once, I was the wife of a successful businessman and the chief accountant of his firm. I had it all: a house, an ideal family, a loving husband, and a beautiful little daughter." Sharon fell silent again, her eyes downcast. "And what happened?" Connor asked. "One day, people in uniform came into my office, presented evidence of my financial offences, and took me to the station. I didn't even know what the issue was. I learned it later from a lawyer hired by my husband. I was deeply shocked that he wasn't interested in my release. After all, it was our shared business. I handled the finances, and my husband was fine with it. I trusted him completely, and he..." Sharon was once again overwhelmed by memories. It took a lot of effort not to burst into tears, but she managed her emotions and continued. "My husband was quietly stealing our joint money, and then he and his mistress, who was also my friend, decided to get rid of me. And they succeeded 100%. You have my sympathy. And you were a professional in your field and didn't notice any red flags." "How could that happen?" exclaimed Connor, genuinely feeling sorry for Sharon. "I was blinded by my family's happiness. I loved my husband and signed many documents he gave me. He always said it was for the company. And the worst part is, while I was in prison, I lost my parental rights. That's why I need a job, a good reference, so that I can at least occasionally see my little girl." At the thought of her daughter, tears welled up in Sharon's eyes. Connor was genuinely moved by her plea. Seeing how hard it was for Sharon, he said, "How about a cup of coffee to calm down? I also have a business proposal for you." As soon as Connor's worst fears were confirmed yesterday, he decided to offer Sharon the position of his deputy. He also decided to fire Dave, who had pretended to be his friend and partner for so many years, without regret. "Sharon Smith, I offer you the position of deputy director." "But how can I..." Sharon hesitated, not knowing what to say. "What about Dave? Are you saying..." "I've fired that bastard and I'm offering you his position. Do you agree?" the director asked. Sharon hesitated. It was difficult to make such an important decision immediately. Connor noticed her hesitation. "Don't worry, Sharon. I've seen your abilities, and I can trust you with the position. You need a good job and a reference. Tomorrow, I'll introduce you to the staff in the new capacity." All night, Sharon kept tossing and turning in her bed. Her mind was filled with a swarm of chaotic thoughts. Would she manage? How would the staff react? They all hate her there. And her appearance? She had to look at the part. She didn't even have money to buy a decent suit and shoes. Fortunately, her neighbour Nina came to the rescue again and lent her some of her clothes. The next morning, Connor gathered the entire staff to introduce the new deputy. Everyone was in anticipation. Finally, the door to the conference room opened. All eyes were fixed on the elegant, pleasant-looking woman. She walked confidently across the room and sat next to the director. A dead silence settled over the room for a few seconds. The silence was broken by Connor. "Dear colleagues, I introduce to you our new deputy, Sharon Smith. Please give her a warm welcome." A disapproving whisper swept through the room. "That's our cleaning lady." "It can't be true. Just look at her. She sure managed to wrap the boss around her finger quickly." The office buzzed like a beehive all week, but the director quickly dealt with the gossipers and chatterboxes, and they kept their tongues in check. Sharon threw herself into work with enthusiasm. She was buried in paperwork, stayed late, and was already at her desk early in the morning. It became clear that the former deputy had not been very concerned with the company's well-being lately. His main priority had been his own status. Sharon's efforts paid off. The company's performance, good as it was, noticeably improved. After another successful deal, Connor called Sharon into his office. "Congratulations, colleague. We're signing a new contract, and it's largely due to your efforts," Connor said with a satisfied smile. "I'm very happy one," replied Sharon. "But that's not everything. Sharon, I've done some checking on your ex-husband. He turned out to be an incompetent entrepreneur and he recently went bankrupt. I've hired the most competent lawyer in town for such cases. He says that you're now in a favourable position, and there's a good chance to restore your parental rights to your daughter." Sharon's eyes were filled with tears. She did not expect such a genuinely noble gesture from Connor. Sharon had endured her husband's betrayal, survived the hardships of prison life, and made a swift career rise. And she would get her daughter back. She would definitely get her back, no matter what. And that would be her greatest victory.